Hey, hey, hey.
A shar.
Oh, yeah, it's St. Patrick's Day
Yeah,
this
it
week.
is.
Huh?
It was.
Cleet, did you have a green beer?
No, I didn't actually, sadly.
A black and tan?
You know, I don't like doing the whole Uber thing, and I don't, because it's too expensive, and I don't believe in drinking and driving, you know? I'm just cheap.
Oh, so there's this thing that was invented quite a while ago. It's called drinking at home. You don't have to Uber anywhere. You don't have to really pay a bar tab. You drink at home, and it's completely legal and safe.
You buy a little bit of these cute green dyes, and you just mix it together at home. You're like, hee hee hee.
Yeah. Don't try and make me a weirdo.
Pot of gold?
You're the one who's weird because you didn't drink on St. Patrick's Day. Don't make me weird because I put green food coloring in my beer.
I drank a regular beer like my granddaddy did and his granddaddy before that.
Yeah. No, I didn't have a green beer this year. In fact, St. Patrick's was a little different. We did do a corned beef hash, which was amazing. It's always really good. But then, we didn't do cabbage because we didn't have cabbage. We did Brussels sprouts, which I'm like, no.
Actually,
not my favorite.
You can make Brussels sprouts good. But...
Well, my wife seared them in butter and stuff. It was really good. I don't like them, but I liked hers. And then we didn't have the rye bread, so we just had, we did potatoes and gravy. So it was kind of like a hodgepodge.
Well, in honor of St. Patty's Day, what are we drinking tonight?
So I don't want to be that guy that hypes something up and then is a huge letdown. But this is literally, at this point in time, is my favorite beer. It's Space Dust IPA by Elysian Brewing Company.
Yeah, it's just a picture of a hop, and he's spitting the universe, or maybe it's just froth. I'm not sure.
So this is how the universe was created, Clete. It's a giant hop monster. He threw up the galaxies.
Benjamin Franklin did say that beer is proof God wants people to be happy.
I think you butchered it. Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Same thing, but just you butchered it a little bit. So
yeah,
what do you think?
Benjamin Franklin connoisseur. It's pretty hoppy. I like it.
Does it make you happy?
Hang on,
because it's so hoppy. Oh, you got the triple drink,
the 3 gulp challenge. It's okay.
Yeah, this is my favorite beer right now. It's a hefty one. You have 2 or 3, and you'll be feeling a little dusty.
A little
space dusty. So I will tell you, I had something really scary happen last night.
Sorry, I didn't mean to try to break into your house.
Oh, it wasn't you?
I left some shoes.
I thought it was you the first time. No, so being a parent has been awesome, right? I don't know if I talked about it on the show yet, my son's birth. He just turned a year old back in February, but he was born and life lighted that night, spent a week in the NICU. He's had a helmet on because he had torticollis and plagiocephaly, which is a misshapen head and shortened neck tendon. But all that was good. He's been a super happy kid. Nothing crazy's happened. But last night, we laid him down to bed. And he does this thing now where he gets so pissed off when you lay him down, he just screams as loud as he possibly can. And so we just let him cry it out. You have to let him cry it out for a little bit. So eventually he goes to sleep. And my wife and I finish watching our show. We go to bed. And we have this little monitoring camera and stuff. And so he starts making these really horrible noises like he's gasping for air. And we're like, what the hell? He's suffocating. And so we're like, what the hell? That's kind of weird. And we're like, maybe it's producing a lot of snot and it kind of gets stuck in his throat. But he was gasping for air. So I go and pick him out of his bed and he's has this really raspy cough and his voice is really raspy. So we thought he was choking to death. So we midnight last night, go to the ER to get him checked out. And turns out he has croup. You heard of croup?
Nope.
It's a upper respiratory infection in kids.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it can get so severe that their lungs or their airways restrict completely and they can't breathe. His was a mild case, so we got that. They gave him a mild steroid and he's a little bit better. He's got a cough, but scared the shit out of me, man. When you have kids, it's a whole new fear.
It's kind of built now because of the steroids.
Yeah, his arms are just massive.
Lifting 10 stuffed animals at once.
I was vacuuming today. He lifted up the whole couch. I'm like, dude, thanks.
Thanks,
Appreciate you, man. Already pulling your weight. But no, it's really scary. And so obviously anyone who's a parent knows there's no fear than having something wrong with your child. It's it blows everything else out of the water. So that was kind of scary last night.
Yeah.
Late night. I'm a little tired.
Ugh.
But anyway, so this is another special episode because we're doing a listener submission episode. We haven't done one of these in a very long time.
I know, it's been a while.
Both of these are courtesy of our good friend Curtis. Thank you so much for your constant support in sending us all these awesome topics.
Courtesy of Curtis.
Courtesy of Curtis. Courtesy. What are you talking about, Cleet?
So I'll be talking about the Dark Watchers.
Oh,
So
that sounds a little dark.
yeah, apparently they're from like California and spooky.
Oh.
But if you've ever been in the woods and thought that you were being watched, might have been them.
Oh.
Little creepers.
Dark Watchers. My topic involves murder, massacre, and Mormons.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hopefully it happened in a mountain.
Yeah, it's Meadows Massacre.
What?
Have you heard of that? Have you legit heard of the Meadows Massacre before?
Yeah, I've heard of the name. I don't know what happened.
Oh, well, you're going to find out. A massacre happened. Spoiler alert. But
it's going to be another one of these episodes.
No, not nearly as dark as last week. I mean, there is murder and stuff, but it's not nearly as in-depth and gross and disgusting. So, at least in my opinion. But a lot of Mormon stuff. Like, we watched Murder Among the Mormons. That was pretty okay. And then now they get this, Mormon massacre going on. So I'm like, a lot of Mormon stuff lately in my life.
They're angry people.
So it's kind of crazy this actually happened in our home state of Utah. Not a lot happens in Utah, I feel, but
I like the name.
Yeah.
It's just like Mountain Meadow Massacre. You're like, damn.
Right. So who's behind it, Cleet? What happened in the Mountain Meadows Massacre?
Probably Indians and Mormons.
Yeah. Oh, so you bring up a good point. So I'm going to try and be as PC as possible. With a lot of the research recounted Native Americans. I don't know if that's quite PC. Sometimes say American Indians or Indigenous Americans. So I will try and be as PC as possible. If I do say something that's not correct, yell at me in the comments. I'll try and fix it. So just so you know, but I will be referring to the Mormons as Mormons. That's a thing. So, okay. So back in 1857, several emigrant groups hemming from northwestern Arkansas began their trek to sunny California. It's a hell of a trek.
Yeah.
1857. You can't just hop in your minivan and cruise across the state lines there.
You got to get through the mountains.
Along the way, they would join up with other groups of immigrants to form what was called the Baker Fancher Party. These groups came mainly from Marion, Crawford, Carroll, and Johnson counties in Arkansas.
Yeah, that'd be a fun little party. Some buffalo chips.
Yeah, some pork rinds. They assembled into a wagon train at Beller's Stand, which is south of Harrison. Baker Fancher was named after Colonel Alexander Fancher, who had already made his way to California on 2 separate occasions and became the leader. So who better to name this voyage after? He's already been there twice.
Yeah, that means it's going to be smooth sailing if you have experience.
Right, nothing.
I would have no worries.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing's going to happen. It's just a good old traveling tale. The group was well equipped for the journey and was very carefully organized. On their route, other groups from states like Missouri joined them. The group was pretty wealthy and had organized a restock in Salt Lake City, which was common for wagons during this time. The party rolled into Salt Lake City with roughly 120 members. That's a good-sized party.
Yeah.
During the time the Fancher Party arrived in Salt Lake City, the Utah Territory was organized as a theocratic democracy under the lead of a man named Brigham Young.
Ah, yes.
You heard of a man named Brigham Young, Cleve?
Mildly familiar.
Yeah.
This is the place.
The name rings a bell, but I can't say why.
He had a killer beard.
Yeah. Not as good as mine still, but definitely way better than yours, though. Gotta quit trimming it, bro. Just let it grow. Let it grow. He had established colonies along the California Trail and Old Spanish Trail. President James Buchanan had only recently issued orders for troops to enter Utah, so they're forming here in Utah. Rumors spread quickly through the area about the federal troop movement, and eventually Young called for martial law. The Baker Fancher Party were refused supplies in Salt Lake City. That sucks. Like, hey, we're here to restock. They're like, get the fuck out. You don't get anything from us.
Yes, I like that.
So they decided to pack up and take the Old Spanish Trail instead, which would send them through southern Utah.
Home's back where you came. Get the fuck out.
We don't take too kindly to strangers. You can keep your supplies and fuck off.
I got you, dollar.
It's not fuck off. You can frick off, gosh damn it.
Gosh dang, gosh.
Okay. During August 1857, George A. Smith, who was the Mormon apostle, traveled through southern Utah instructing settlers to stockpile grain.
Dum, 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 dum.
On his way back to Salt Lake City, he camped near where the Baker Fancher group had set up their own camp. This was on August 25th at Corn Creek, which is modern-day Kanosh. Way down south.
I think I saw a solar eclipse there. That's so funny.
Yeah. It's a lot of nothing still.
Yeah, there was nothing there.
Yeah. Not much has changed from 1850s Kanosh. They had traveled 165 miles from Salt Lake City. Jacob Hamblin suggested they continue on the trail and rest the cattle at Mountain Meadows, which was a good pasture and adjacent to his homestead.
I hear that place is a massacre of a great time.
Well, the title's Mountain Meadows Massacre. They're going to Mountain Meadows. I wonder what's going to happen. Most of the witnesses to the party suggested they were a mostly peaceful party and behaved well along their travels. Nothing wrong has happened. They're just like walking around. Oh, how you doing? How you doing? But they're a little upset that they were refused supplies, though.
At what point are you not mostly peaceful?
But as we all know, there are two sides to every coin, and some rumors had emerged of some misdeeds among the party. There might be some bad eggs in this group, Clete.
Yeah.
They're not acting all happy. Brevet Major James Henry Carleton, God, that's a mouthful, had led the first federal investigation of the murders, which published in 1859. He recounted Hamblin's statement that the party supposedly poisoned a spring near Corn Creek, which caused the death of 18 head of cattle and 2 to 3 people who had eaten the contaminated meat.
Damn.
Carleton went on to interview the father of a child who allegedly passed away from the poisoned spring and believed the sincerity of the grieving father's claims. Carleton also included a statement from another investigator who did not believe the Fancher party was even capable of poisoning the spring due to its size. How do you poison an entire spring?
It's a lot of poison.
Carleton had invited readers to consider a possible explanation for these rumors, making note that Mormons generally distrusted strangers during this time, and that maybe some locals were in fact jealous of the Fancher party's wealth. So he's like, I know y'all think they poisoned the spring, but might I suggest an alternative? You're all jealous because they're wealthier than you.
I like that.
I'm sure that pissed a lot of people off.
Sorry for having so much money, and you just keep dying over there.
I can't afford poisoned cows.
Dicks.
The Baker Fancher party continued their journey leaving Corn Creek and traveling 125 miles to Mountain Meadows. They passed several southern Utah communities such as Parowan and Cedar City in their travels. Stake presidents William H. Dane and Isaac C. Hite were leading these southern communities at this time. Hite and Dane were also senior regional military leaders in the Mormon militia. As the Fancher party arrived, several meetings were held in Cedar City by local LDS leaders on how the martial law would be implemented. On Sunday, September 6th, Hite held his weekly Stake High Council meeting after the church services were complete. Here, they discussed what they should do with the newly arrived immigrants. It's like, let's all gather. What should we do with these assholes?
Accept them.
Yeah, with open arms.
They're
That's
good
the godly
people.
thing to do. They're mostly good. They poisoned
They're
a well.
mostly good.
What do we do with these rich people coming into our land? Several plans were discussed, one of which included a Native American massacre. However, not all council members agreed on such approach. Like, might I suggest we murder them all? No, I think we're good. Ultimately, the council decided not to take action until Hite sent a writer named James Haslam to Salt Lake City carrying an express for Brigham Young's advice on the matter.
Oh, yeah?
So they sent a writer saying, hey, what do we do with these rich people? I know they just came from Salt Lake City. What do you think?
Burn through the witches. Oh. Man.
So that's funny. So Rob Zombie just had a new album come out, and it's actually pretty catchy. Utah did not have a telegraph system during this time, so obviously they had to send it by horseback. After this council, Hite sent a messenger south to John D. Lee. The contents remain a mystery to this day. However, taking into consideration the timing, it possibly had to do with the decision to wait for Young's advice. So they got a rider going to Salt Lake and one to John D. Lee. The Fancher party reached Mountain Meadows in early September. They found fresh water and fresh grazing land for the livestock. They were happy to make it, but somewhat dispirited from their travels. They made camp expecting several days of rest and the chance to recoup from all those miles traveled. They had just 40 miles until they were out of Utah, and they were excited to get the hell out of there. Just 40 miles away, Cleet, and they're out of Utah.
Smooth sailing.
Again, it's a happy tale we're talking about here. This dream of leaving, however, would never come true because on September 7th, the party was attacked. The attacking party consisted of the Mormon militiamen who were dressed as indigenous Americans with some of the Paiute tribe in tow. The Fancher party attempted to defend themselves by encircling and lowering their wagons, chaining the wheels together, and digging trenches. They threw dirt in and around the wagons, which ultimately made a pretty strong barrier. So they literally just encircled themselves with all their wagons, and they're just hunkering down. 7 immigrants were killed during the initial attack and had been buried within the wagon circle. 16 more had been injured during that same attack. The attack lasted a total of 5 days, which cut the immigrants off from fresh water or game food. They had also exhausted all of their ammunition.
Uh-oh.
So they're just stuck now. During the attacks, leadership began to break in the Mormon militia. They had a fear that some of the immigrants had actually seen them as white men and had figured out who the actual attackers were, because they're trying to pretend that they are these indigenous Americans. As this fear spread, the order was made to kill every immigrant with the exception of small children. So they're like, oh, they found us, kill every single one of them.
Damn.
On Friday, September 11th, 1857, 2 militiamen approached the Fancher party bearing a white flag, which is the truce flag right there.
Yeah.
We're done. You're good. They were followed by John D. Lee, who was an Indian agent and militia officer. Lee approached the extremely exhausted and battle-weary immigrants, telling them that he negotiated a truce with the Paiute tribe where they could be safely escorted 36 miles back to Cedar City under Mormon protection.
Uh-oh.
Would you believe that?
Shame.
All they had to do was turn over their livestock and supplies to the indigenous Americans. Not seeing any other alternative, they all agreed, handed over their supplies, and were led out of the makeshift bunker. The adult men were separated from the women and children and paired with the militia escort. A signal was then given, and the men were gunned down by militiamen, execution style.
Sad.
I wish I could say that women and children were spared. However, they were ambushed and killed by more militiamen hiding in the nearby bushes. Members of the militia were sworn to secrecy and were not to disclose the happenings to anybody. The plan was to blame the massacre on the indigenous American tribes. Only a few of the smallest children were spared since they were far too young to recount what had happened. These few fortunate children were taken in by local Mormon families. 17 of the children were later returned to families in Arkansas by the U.S. Army.
So they all died. That's sad.
Yeah, all of them massacred. The founder of the Mormon History Association, Leonard J. Arrington, reported that Young received the letter from the writer that same day. After learning of the plan, Young sent a letter back stating the Fancher party was not to be meddled with and should be allowed to go in peace. The same day. He did state in his letter, though, that the Native Americans would do as they pleased, quote unquote. Young's letter unfortunately arrived 2 days late on September 13, 1857. So they're already killed. 2 days later it came through. The property belonging to the dead party was reportedly taken by indigenous American tribes that were involved. However, large amounts of valuables and cattle were taken by the Mormons in southern Utah, including Lee himself. Some cattle was sent to Salt Lake City, and others were traded and sold. Other remaining personal property, the Fancher party, was taken to the tithing house in Cedar City and auctioned off to local Mormons. Auctioning off all their fucking belongings.
It was a win-win. I'm kidding.
Good old tithing. Give us 10% of what you make. Brigham Young conducted an early investigation into the massacre. He interviewed John D. Lee on September 29, 1857. In 1858, he sent a report to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs claiming that the massacre was the work of indigenous Americans. Investigators by the U.S. federal government were delayed due to the Utah War in 1859. Jacob Forney and James Henry Carleton conducted their investigations at this point. During Carleton's investigations, he found women's hair tangled in the sagebrush and bones of children still in their mother's arms.
Aww.
That's sad. Can you imagine finding that?
I don't like that.
He said it was, and I quote, a sight which can never be forgotten.
You got to get the perpetrators and get them run over by wagons. A wagon death.
What about quartered?
I don't know what that is.
I mean, like the horses run separate ways?
No, I really like the wagon. Like, get a really heavy wagon.
That sucks so bad. The big freaking
it's like
wooden
slowly
wheels.
coming up. You're like,
It's
no!
like Austin Powers. Stop! That's so crazy. That would hurt. Really bad.
Like, reverse it.
They gathered up all the skulls and bones that they could, buried them, and erected a cairn and cross. Carleton's investigation continued as he interviewed Mormon settlers and indigenous American chiefs, where he concluded that Mormons did in fact have involvement with the massacre. What? It was concluded that the Paiutes did not act alone in the massacre and that it wouldn't have happened at all without the white settlers. The massacre was called a heinous crime, and both local and senior church leaders were blamed for the killings. Crazy. A federal judge by the name of John Cradlebow was brought into the territory in March 1859, and a grand jury was convened in Provo. The jury declined any indictments. Cradlebaugh still conducted a tour of the mountain meadows with a military escort. Cradlebaugh also attempted to arrest Lee, Height, and John Higbee, but all had fled before they could be found. Fucking cowards. Cradlebaugh publicly charged Brigham Young as the instigator to the massacre and an accessory before the fact. Most likely as a protective measure against the mistrust in the federal court system, Mormon Territorial Probate Court Judge Elias Smith arrested Brigham Young under a territorial warrant, possibly hoping to divert the trial of Young into a Mormon territorial court. So he wants to take him out of a federal court and into a Mormon-only court.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
Yeah.
When they do like trials, like some people want to go to like a federal judge and people want to stay in like certain states.
Yep. Get this though. Young was released as no federal charges ensued. Imagine that. Taken to a Mormon court and he's released.
Didn't he send a letter not to do it though?
Yeah, but they still told him that he's an accessory before the fact and an instigator of the war. Any further investigations into the massacre were cut short due to the American Civil War in 1861. They proceeded again in 1871 when prosecutors obtained an affidavit of Philip Klingensmith, who was a militia member. Klingensmith had been a bishop and blacksmith in Cedar City, but had left the church in the 1870s and moved to Nevada. So I'm going to where it's warm.
Yeah.
Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
Lee had finally been arrested on November 7th, 1874, along with Dame, Klingensmith, and two others named Elliot Williden and George Adair Jr. Warrants were obtained for Height, Higbee, William C. Stewart, and Samuel Jukes, who had all gone into hiding. Klingensmith avoided prosecution with his will to testify. Brigham Young removed several members from the LDS Church, including Height and Lee, in 1870. Bounties were posted by the U.S. for $500, which today is $10,000, for the capture of Height, Higbee, and Stewart each. Prosecutors decided not to pursue cases against Dame, Wilden, and Adair. Lee entered his first trial on July 23, 1875, in Beaver, the Great Beaver Trial. Can you imagine?
Have you ever driven through Beaver?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Because they always make so many like beaver jokes.
Oh, I know. You have to. That's like
Beaver has the best water.
Because every time we drive to Arizona, we go through Beaver.
You got to stop at Beaver.
You have to. Everyone loves Beaver. The jury consisted of 8 Mormons and 4 non-Mormons. The trial led to a hung jury on August 5th, 1875, which means they just couldn't come to an agreement. It was just split. The second trial began on September 13th, 1876, in front of an all-Mormon jury. The prosecution called upon Daniel Wells, Laban Merrill, Joel White, Samuel Knight, Samuel McMurdy, Nephi Johnson, and Jacob Hamlin. Lee made a stipulation against advice from his counsel that the prosecution be allowed to reuse depositions from Young and Smith from the prior trial. Lee called no witnesses to his defense and this time around was convicted. Under the Utah Territorial Statute, Lee was allowed to choose the manner of his execution from 3 options.
Ooh, I like this.
His choices were hanging, firing squad, or decapitation.
Which one would you pick?
I was going to ask you that same thing.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know.
How's the decapitation work? Is it off?
I don't know if it's the
guillotine. Yeah,
I don't know.
That'd be cool.
That or it's just like they use a really blunt twig and just go forever.
Here's the pros and cons, okay?
Let's hear them.
You know, either when you get hung, 3 things happen, okay? The rope's not long enough and you suffocate, right? So that's option 1.
Mm-hmm.
Or they do it right and you break your neck and die in a couple of minutes. Or they give you too much rope and you just get decapitated anyways.
So it's a decapitation by hanging.
Science back in the medieval ages. You know, the firing squad, yeah, you might be killed quick, but, you know, the actual weapons weren't as accurate, so maybe you get shot a lot and you just hurt.
Just a bunch of nicks in the arm. You're like, just fucking hit me in the head.
And then you got the guillotine, which legend has it, the guy who made it, I mean, he did get chopped his head off in there. Like, I think it might have been voluntary.
Yeah,
and he
because
would blink as many times as he could till he couldn't.
Because he was trying to test how long the brain stays alive.
That's tough.
He just sat there and blinked forever.
I don't know, man.
So
I'd probably do the hanging.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
As long as you break my... Like, I just want to be dead as soon as I can.
So I agree with you. I don't know. Decapitation would be pretty quick, though.
You know, burning alive isn't actually as bad as you think.
And you know this?
Well, yeah. Well, what happens
being burned
is
alive.
If they do it right, all your nerves burn off real quick, and then you don't feel the pain.
How do you burn someone alive wrong?
Well, actually, I'm glad you asked. Because when people would torture people, they knew that if you just put someone in a big old fire, it wouldn't hurt as bad. So they would do a slow burn from the feet to the top.
I'm a little concerned that you just know all this. You know, back in the day when people tortured people, they all got together and they realized.
Yeah. They knew how to hurt.
You've got like the anatomy down, everything. So you're choosing hanging then.
Well, Joan of Arc, she died the bad way with burns. I feel bad for her.
Yeah. But again, you're choosing hanging would be your death sentence?
I find shooting appealing, but I just don't trust the technology. I would pick the bullet right now.
Wow.
I wouldn't pick the bullet back then. I just don't like the guillotine. It just seems unnatural to me.
Well, I would choose decapitation. I mean, it doesn't say the guillotine. It's just decapitation.
At least you can make a lot of head jokes before you go.
It could be a cool saber. Like,
I never got a head in life.
Heads up. I'm probably going to choose decapitation, but what do you think that John D. Lee picked for his? What do you think he chose?
You know, as a Mormon, I would take the bullet. He would take the bullet.
Yeah. So yeah, Lee chose to die by firing squad.
Yep.
Well, I mean, he's also a militiaman. I mean, that just kind of goes hand in hand. Like, that's how you'd go. It's like, you know what? Shot a lot of people in my life.
I think that's the last way. In Utah we did the death penalty here. Is we shot somebody.
Are you serious? That was like the last one?
Yeah, I think it was in high school or middle school when it happened.
His final words were spoken at Mountain Meadows on March 23rd, 1877. He claimed that he was simply a scapegoat for the real ones involved.
You know, I changed my mind. If I were to go today, I'd pick poison. I know that's not an option, so I can do the long troll and say, I can see the people and they don't have eyes. Oh my God, this is what's going to happen.
So I think you think that, but you're being slowly poisoned. I don't think you're going to be making any jokes. You're going to be like,
no, you got to do the long troll.
Yeah,
you got to do the long troll.
You're being poisoned.
Yeah, if you're a professional about it, you'll be able to do it.
Oh,
yeah.
You're a professional, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. God, I hope you don't ever get poisoned alive because you're just going to be one long troll.
The long troll.
The long troll. Young said that Lee's fate was just, but was not a sufficient blood atonement given the severity of the crime committed. So, folks, that is the Mountain Meadows Massacre.
That's pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Pretty crazy. I didn't know about it. I had heard it like you, but I didn't know what it was.
I didn't know they dressed up as Native Americans. I had no idea. That was
I didn't
very
either.
Interesting.
And then they tried to blame them. That's just so fucked up.
What? I mean, false flags happen all the time. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, but and there was, some of the Paiute tribe was with them. So it's like they did participate. But again, had the Mormons not instigated it, it wouldn't have happened. Like, it would have just been normal. It would have been just fine. Yeah, but anyway, so cool. I want to know about these Dark Watchers, man.
All right, so let's move to the Dark Watchers. So the Santa Lucia Mountains, or the Santa Lucia Range, is a rugged mountain range located in the coastal area of Central California. Within these mountains are strange and possibly mystifying phantoms that stand up motionless in long black cloaks.
Ugh.
They seem to be surveying the cracks in the peaks of the mountains of Santa Lucia. These unfathomable creatures have been spotted by travelers to be looking out at the sea.
I'll let you go. I'll let you get away with unfathomable.
I'll
let you get away. We're not going to try that one, but I just imagine like just standing there in cloaks. Look at these mountains.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous.
Well, we don't know what they're thinking, Who knows?
Someone should go ask him, "Hey, what are you guys thinking?" The Dark Watchers are just watching the mountains. Are you okay? What are you
Is this
thinking
the
about?
long troll?
I wonder if they're just like
my friend did when he got poisoned.
They're probably tripping. They just took a bunch of acid. They're staring at the mountains. Oh my goodness.
Well, here's the thing, because no one can really get close to them, right?
Why?
They disappear. They just disappear.
Oh, I
so
see.
they are often spotted far away, wearing broad-brimmed hats, and are sometimes carrying either a staff or a walking stick.
They're wizards.
They might be. It could be like Gandalf, but shy.
You shall not pass.
No, he's just like sitting there doing whatever his magic is, and he sees someone, he's like, he's gone. Poof. So a consistent description of those who have seen them is that they are always silent, still, and featureless. Those who try to get a good look at them fail because by the time they register what took place, they take a second glance and they've already vanished. So what are these Dark Watchers?
I just imagine you're hiking. You're like, yeah, this is. Whoa, do you see that? Then you look at your friend. Did you? And then they're gone.
Dude, it happens all the time. I swear to God, especially when you're tired. You know, in the peripheries of your mind, in your eyes, you just see something like it runs really quick, and you look over and it's not there.
You're like, whoa.
You know, truck drivers talk about the black dog. You know that? I mean, this is like a complete tangent we're going to go on. But they talk about it all the time when they don't sleep and they're driving down the road. They always talk about a black dog that runs across the road. There's not a lot of information on it, so.
I don't. Actually, I do want to know the crazy shit that truckers see. Like,
yeah, there is Reddit things, but they call it a harbinger of doom. So it's supposed to dude, wake up. Like, you need to pull over. You're going to die.
Oh, God. It's like, all right, it's time for nappy.
I'm a long-haul trucker. All right.
I don't need naps. Fuck that dog.
I don't need naps. I've been driving 24 hours. I don't fucking care.
I don't care at all. I got a frozen burrito from that Maverick. It's still partially frozen. Fuck that dog.
So now we're going to go into the history, okay? These dark entities are believed to reside in a misty hillside of Big Sur in the Santa Lucia Mountains. So it's like a specific area.
Big Sur.
So it all started early with Spanish explorers and Mexican ranchers that saw these creatures and referred to them as Los Vigilante Oscuros.
That was very beautiful, Cleet.
I know. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Right.
Los Vigilantes Oscuros.
I am not right-handed. All right.
That's such a good movie.
In modern times, they came to be known as the Dark Watchers. These Dark Watchers are a group of migratory entities that have appeared in California folklore for supposedly the past several hundred years.
Wow.
And are purportedly stalking travelers along the Santa Lucia Mountains. They are apparently giant human-like phantoms that are only seen in the twilight, and they're usually spotted standing silhouetted against the night sky along ridges and peaks of the mountains.
I mean, it's a little scary. When you hear of like the Dark Watchers, I just imagine something way scarier than like hooded figures way in the distance that just vanish.
True. It's just like whodunit. I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. I want to know more.
Yeah.
You know?
The end. M. Night Shyamalan. You never find out. There's our episodic M. Night Shyamalan plug. Thank you very much.
Credits. These beings are believed to possess incredible hearing as well as impeccable eyesight. They're also immune to high-tech detection and prefer to only reveal themselves to travelers or trekkers who are equipped with simple items like hats and sticks. When I was reading this, I was just laughing because
Your equipment will not work on me.
The reason why you can't take a photo is because they know and they just avoid you.
Yeah.
It's like the UFO thing. They're like,
your camera will not work for these.
The reason why you don't see UFOs now is because they're humans in the future, and all you Instagram fucks keep documenting life so they don't have to come visit this time. They go to the 70s.
Yeah.
When we didn't have cameras, and they're like, all right, what is Coca-Cola doing right now? Like, what type of tasty beverage are they whipping up?
Oh, that was a good tangent, Cleet.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Let's go to the literature. Tales of the Dark Watchers appear in many books, and many personal accounts of the encounters with them can be found online. A brief description of Dark Watchers can be read in many books about California's famous supernatural stories, but these descriptions always referred to the writings of Pulitzer Prize winner John Steinbeck and poet Robinson Jeffers as literary sources that mention this phenomenon. In 1938, John Steinbeck was living near Monterey at the northern end of Santa Lucia Mountains when he published his book of short stories titled The Long Valley. One of the stories included in the books is the short story Flight, which is most famously mentions the Dark Watchers specifically. The Dark Watchers must have had some notoriety in the area at the time because the poet Robinson Jeffers, who also lived in Big Sur, also published a poem called Such Counsels You Gave to Me in 1937.
Where do you live, Cleet? In Big Sur.
Yeah, right? That's a cool name.
I live in Little Sur.
You know, I feel like California would be okay to live in if like it was in the woodsy area. In his poem, Jeffers described the Dark Watchers as forms that look human, but certainly are not human. Steinbeck and Jeffers, writing around the same time in the same region and drawing inspiration from the same local traditions, implies that some form of Dark Watcher lore predated both their literary creations. But what was it?
That's a good question.
Original accounts of the Dark Watchers date all the way back to the Chumash, a Native American tribe which has lived along the central coast of California and among the Channel Islands for around 13,000 years.
Good Lord.
The Chumash natives have included stories of the Dark Watchers in their oral legends and traditions since the pre-Columbian era. So this is what people say.
These guys go back
right?
a long time.
So this is like in books and people claim this, but it's not really true.
And you know this how? You just know what's
Doing
true
more
and what's
research.
false?
It's not true, okay?
So you did research.
A little bit, you know.
That's how you find things out, is research.
I went to the Google machine.
Because the internet never lies.
So let's kind of talk about why maybe this isn't true.
Okay.
So one of the most detailed and authoritative accounts of Chumash beliefs is arguably the 1974 1,200-page doctoral dissertation by Thomas Blackburn, which was later published as December's Child, a book of Chumash oral narratives. Right?
Jeez.
Pretty fun. So Blackburn's principal source in writing his dissertation about Chumash beliefs was a massive archive collected by the American linguist and ethnologist John Peabody Harrington between 1912 and 1928. So it included 111 oral narratives of the Chumash native tribe. Harrington's body of unpublished research were housed in the Smithsonian's National Anthropological Archives, and Blackburn went through them all, compiling virtually all there is to know about the Chumash beliefs.
That would take a long time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's his dissertation,
That's his
right?
life work, right?
Yeah,
here.
it really is. Well, I mean, it's both of their life's work. So with an expert having researched extensively of the subject matter, we are now left with a very important question. Did the Chumash really tell stories about the Dark Watchers?
I don't know. I would think so. Do you have the answer for us?
Yes.
Yeah,
I do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's like last week. Is it true or false? We
I
don't
don't
know.
fucking know.
You tell me.
Fuck you. What a twist. So if we're going to really base our answer from Blackburn, the answer is going to be no. They're not creatures anything like the Dark Watchers mentioned within the oral narratives of this American tribe. But there are some weird things there, so we'll kind of talk about it.
So it's not quite true in the Dark Watchers, but there is some weird shit.
Yeah, we always got to talk about the weird shit here.
Always.
So the closest thing that can be connected to these Watchers was a creature called Nunasis. The Chumash believed that the Earth, as we know it, is the middle world, which is an island surrounded by ocean. The sun and other celestial bodies are part of the upper world, and down below is the lower world. Among the dwellers of the lower world are the Nunazes.
Yeah, I've been to the upper world. It's not very classy.
It's a bunch
I don't want to
of
go to the
jerks.
underworld,
Fucking
though.
snobby bitches.
Yeah.
There's a
Those
bunch of
upper
Hollister.
worlds. What?
A bunch of Hollister and Abercrombie.
Oh, I see. I was like, what the hell is Hollister? Hollister and Abercrombie. Abercrombie and Fitch, Banana Republic.
So the
Okay.
So the Nunazes were these monstrous and misshapen animals who come up in the middle of the night and spread bad luck and illness and other negative things.
Good God. The word misshapen is just so creepy. Like a misshapen
Like really
animal.
long legs but tiny arms. You
That's
just see
just
him.
like a T-Rex.
You're like
it just
out,
sounds horrible.
You're out camping, you see one. He's like, well, Britton, you're going to have some bad luck. See ya. Back
See
to the
that
lower world.
misshapen animal over there? You're going to have some terrible nightmares tonight. Yeah, just from seeing that fucking thing. Who's going to sleep after seeing that misshapen piece of shit?
So these creatures can be shaped like humans. So, okay, Dark Watchers. But they are neither dark or cloaked. So it's like, they're just weird looking animals, you know? Like maybe a dog with too many legs or a giraffe with two necks.
Oh, but not two heads, just two necks. So the one with limp.
They're just some weird neck. It's more like a vacuum.
What kind of zoo you running, bro?
It's illegal.
What do you do to these animals? Dude, lots of drugs.
These creatures are also not known for standing still against the night sky along mountain peaks and staring at oceans.
Oh.
So clearly, they don't match. There's another creature they believe in, which is a shape-shifting animal that can go from animal to human, which, is widely believed among Native American cultures. But yeah, none of those actually fit the Dark Watchers.
Yeah.
So there's really a lot of doubts of the validity that the Chumash actually believed in the Dark Watchers, and I think an easier speculation is just authors in the 20th century were just trying to get credibility and saying yeah, these are real, and these Native American tribes believed in it. Don't check.
Yeah, don't check it.
Just shut up.
Read my thing and believe it.
Yeah, shut up. So that is the story of the Dark Watchers. So I wanted to add a couple tidbits on here because I had to go look up Reddit and see stories of people talking about them. You'd be pretty surprised because there's not a lot, but I'm going to read a couple stories. Okay, we'll make it quick.
Do it.
Okay, so the first story is from Anonymous.
Oh,
It says,
credible.
yeah, right.
Don't fact
It
check
was
it.
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln, Dark Watcher Slayer. He killed Dark Watchers and
He
vampires.
killed them all. I saw what I now believe as a Dark Watcher yesterday. So, they literally saw it and posted on Reddit the next day.
Wow.
I was visiting the Central Coast for work and was leaving a large agriculture processing center at about dusk, so twilight hours.
Okay.
As I was leaving the facility, I saw a very tall man in black waving to me from underneath a tree about 30 yards away.
I don't remember them waving.
Yeah,
They like to be
whatever.
left alone.
Yeah, I'll take what I can get.
Okay.
I did not recognize the man. No one I had met that day was very tall, and I didn't get a good look at his face as it was obscured by a hat.
Oh,
He
the
had
hat.
a 40-gallon cowboy hat.
Yeah.
I
He said, "Hey, cowboy."
I made the turn out of the facility. After turning approximately 2 or 3 seconds later, I looked to see if I could get a better look at the man, and there was no one there.
Just like that, they vanished.
Yeah, just like
Don't look
the
away
Lord.
from them.
The tree was about 20 feet from the tall fence, and there was nowhere anyone could have run off to that quickly. There was a large black bird near the tree, but other than that, no sign of that man.
He changed into the bird.
I felt very uneasy about what I had just seen and did a Google search that brought me back to the Dark Watchers and eventually to this post. Would love any thoughts about what I saw. Do you believe it? True or false? I think he's full of shit.
You see this, right? You get out of this agricultural center. You see this tall man. You look, and then the first thing you do is go to Google. I saw a very tall man. He waved at me, and he wasn't there. What did I see? Dark Watcher.
Dark Watcher.
No, it's totally false.
It's Insidious 4.
I'm sorry, Anonymous. I'm calling your bullshit.
All right, this one is from Carolyn.
Oh, we have a name, so I'm going to believe this.
Yeah.
I believe Carolyn already, and hasn't even started.
My husband and I were in California a few years ago for a wedding of my ex. Parenthesis. Yeah, I know. Strange. We actually got an invite. End parenthesis. He and a new wife took us to Big Sur near Santa Lucia Mountains. As we were out sightseeing, I looked at the mountains and asked them about the thin statues on the peaks. Uh-oh.
Would you go to your ex's wedding? Are you serious?
I'd go. I'm be cool with that.
I mean, I guess it
bad
just
blood.
depends on how it ended.
It depends on how many years, too, you know? It's
Yeah.
like 10 years. I don't give a fuck.
There's a lot of variables.
Yeah. My ex and his wife looked rather scared and asked, OMG, you saw them? She hates them, you can tell.
Oh, this is so true. It's not even funny.
I asked what the story was with the statues, and they said, not statues. They are the Dark Watchers. The local tribes know more of them, but they've been here since the beginning of time. So, right? So that's story 2.
So you're standing there with a wedding party. You're like, do you see those statues? And they're like, Cleet, not statues. Dark Watchers. They've been here since the beginning of time.
Yeah,
I'd have a hard time not laughing.
I'd be like, dude, what was in that wedding cake, huh?
How much did you have to drink tonight?
You
sir?
should be driving. Why are we in a car right now?
What's going
Weren't
on?
we just in the mountains? There's a couple screws loose in this one, but I found it. I had to add it. So,
Is this a new story?
This one is from Jerry.
Oh, so Carolyn's story's over.
Yeah, Carolyn. Yeah, that was it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not a lot of context there.
So she finds out and then that's it.
Yeah, they're like the end.
Okay.
The Dark Watchers seem identical to the thin black humanoids that have started popping up all over the world, but known about for much longer and distinguished by wearing hats.
In quotations.
If a hat to guess what they are, I suggest that's how they wrote it.
Stupid.
That's how they wrote it. Some pre-natural humanoid species, primarily spiritual rather than corporeal. As usual, local oral history, which can go back up to 15,000 years, in this case of some isolated tribes, probably holds deep clues to their origins. Like, this guy's cuckoo as fuck.
I had to guess.
Yeah.
That's so punny.
This said, unusual atmospheric projections can occur in mountain ranges at sunrise and sundowns, including apparitions of armies later traced to secret drilling procedures and hard-to-access quarries.
Jesus Christ.
E.g. before the Jacobite Risings. I have no idea what that means. I wouldn't want to speculate too much. Like, Jesus, dude, like, you speculated a lot.
This is all speculation, sir.
But as the atmosphere acting like Pepper's ghost in a topic for physicists, but it can happen. I don't know what the fuck that guy's saying. He's nuts.
I felt like he just had a lot of pent-up aggression. He's like, I'm going to sit down and type something up.
Yeah, I bet he just like was typing random shit. Like,
That was just an
T9
anger.
on his phone.
Yeah, that was like an anger diarrhea
He's like,
mode.
Sergeant Pepper is pissed. All right, well, that sums up our stories tonight. Pretty interesting stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, and again, thank you, Curtis, for both of the suggestions. And again, we are calling for all of our listeners, literally anybody can submit a request. We will talk about it. Entertheabysspod@gmail.com. Anything, we'll talk about it. Send it our way. We'd love to hear from you.
And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.